Hi guys, and welcome back to part 3 of this tutorial series. Today we're going to be finishing off the animations, and we're going to add some rocket flames and just add some finishing touches in the compositing section, and then we'll render this out and then we will have our final product. Okay, so let's have a look-see. This is where we left off. We tracked our footage, we created our added our CG assets in Blender. Everything's tracking very nicely. If you play that, you can see everything's tracking nicely, everything's looking good, and now it's time to start animating. So let's do that. I think I want to just split the views here and go into the camera view on this side, just so we can see what the scene is going to do. And then on this viewport we will be doing the animations. So let's just select this empty and we move this rocket down to about there is fine. And now we've got our doors here. We want to start off by just closing them like so. Just need to move down a bit. The alignment of this design is slightly off, but you know, is what is, you know, it is what is. I think we can fix it a little bit, so maybe just drag it up a bit and in, and we can actually maybe scale that on the y-axis just tiny bit. I just want to turn on screencast for you guys. Alright, now let us start with our animation of our bay doors. So we're just gonna move in here. I actually want to move to the top view, and I want to open this properties, object properties tab, because over here I can adjust the location, which I will be using for animation. So what we will do is, I wonder, let's see where we will start the animation. So it's going to be playing la-di-da-di. It should probably open by now. It can probably just open slowly from this from frame. Actually, let's only open it from frame 76. Location is the X axis, yeah. So the first thing before we do that, just move this up a bit. Alright, so we select the first door, we're gonna add a keyframe, and then we want to say maybe over so many frames here, which is about 50, 250 or whatever, 200 odd frames that we want to have it open. And I think we want to not open it all the way, we want to leave a bit of it sticking out, and then you add another keyframe in there. So if I play this, that's quite fast. Okay, so what's great about this, so let's just go and do this to the other door as well. So 76, I'm gonna add a keyframe. Which one was that? It was on frame 201 basically. So we're gonna go here, 201 or 2, doesn't matter. Slide that open to around there and add another keyframe. So if we skip back and we play this, you'll see it might be opening a little bit fast. It kind of loses that giant door effect, because I don't know if you guys have seen the movie Pacific Rim, which is one of my favorite films. You'll see when there's really giant monsters or robots, they tend to appear that they're moving very slowly because of size and physics. So this is a little bit fast. It's like, I mean, if you're a tiny person that's the size of a little pixel there, those doors are like moving at a hectic pace. So all what we can do here is we can select the last keyframe you made and just slide it over to around there, and that'll automatically stretch the time out. So you'll see it opens a lot slower, which is pretty cool. And we'll do the same. So we put that on frame 400, skip back, put it on, click that one, just drag it to frame 400, and then let that just basically load. And you see the doors opening, still a little bit fast, but it's fine, because we don't have a lot of time in our timeline yet to have a full animation of the doors opening and the rocket coming out and still taking off. Yeah, so I think that's fine. If I play this, looks great. Okay, and now we want to animate our rocket. So we created an empty that we parented our rocket to, which is great because now we just need to animate the empty and the rocket will follow. So we know that it will start opening around let's just start by frame 150, and we want to animate the Z location, which is up and down, and we're gonna just kind of wait for it to maybe 322 and see if we can. And this is gonna move probably quite fast. And like I said, we can adjust the speed just by dragging this last keyframe. So let's just play that and see what we have currently. So this rocket comes out. So that's quite funny. This rocket comes out with a massive speed. So if you don't speak Afrikaans or live in South Africa, just to let you know, when I say massive speed, ma means mom, but we use it as like a saying, like basically in Afrikaans I would say dis ma vinnig. Translated in English I would say that's mom fast, but I know you can't really translate it into English because then it just doesn't make sense. That's how we say things here. It's just a way of saying, oh my word, that's really fast. Yeah, so it's like it's insanely fast. Okay, so let's select the empty and we'll just drag it out. So careful not to drag both keyframes. You just want to select the last one. I wonder if we're gonna have enough time in this. So it still comes out with quite a speed, yeah. I just want to let it play all the way through so it'll cache the frames, and then just let the animation run at full 60 frames per second so I can actually see what's going on here, and try and figure out how we're going to do this shot, because currently we're very strapped for time to have doors open and a rocket come out. So okay, currently it's running at half the speed, which is not helpful. Okay, that's something. So it is what it is. So from here on, add another keyframe. and then daar she blows, and then all the way to the end. We want to like basically animate it leaving. This is around there. And it'll work. I mean, we'll add some camera shake. It's pretty cool. So it goes. I wonder if we can speed it. We should probably speed it up a little bit. So maybe we can remove the last keyframe. Add a keyframe maybe there, and then at the end we'll make it basically leave the shot and add another keyframe, and that should have sped up our motion. So it slowly starts off and then it picks up speed, and that did not work. So what we can do is just drag that there and maybe drag this in. Let's see. And it picks up speed. Alright, so let's just look at it again. Alright, cool. That's it's what it is. Let's just remember to save your project file. And now for the fun parts, we are going to be doing the fluid sim, or the rocket flames, as it may be. Alright, so I'm not gonna create a rocket flame for each individual engine. Yeah, I'm just gonna do one for the main one, and yeah, that's about it, and it should look fine. And yeah, okay, so we start off, let's just start off by creating a UV sphere. Let's just bring that down all the way here to where our rocket sits. I want it to emit from not inside the engine, but just outside the engine. And then we can, I just want to scale it down a bit. And then I'm going to go say object, quick effects, smoke. So it's automatically creates a domain for me here. So just select the domain, and I'm going to go to the physics tab. So it's gas, go back to the emitter object, change from smoke to fire and smoke. Okay. Go back to your domain, and so I want to now scale this up. Scale Z. Okay, and we can move this down to around there. And that should be efficient for our rocket flame. Let's just move all of this stuff in line with the rocket, because then it's just going to look weird if it's not in line. Cool. And then we're just going to tweak some settings. So for now, if I hit play, before I do that, let me just save my file here. Save. If I hit play, it's just going to make flames here. It's not going to be directed outward properly. So what we need to do is select our sphere. Okay. I don't know why it's all the way in the engine. That's not what I wanted. So there. So if we select our sphere and we go down here to initial velocity, and the direction of the velocity of the flame is up and down, and we want to put maybe like minus 200, so it's going to shoot down like with quite a force. So if I hit play, you'll see the flame starting to emit downwards. Okay. Sometimes if you make changes here, it will not display in your viewport until you've just changed this value. So just change it quickly, and then you'll start seeing some really good things happening here in your viewport. So obviously currently it's just going to look like smoke because we need to play with the shader materials to display fire and things like that. So just go back here, go back into the wireframe mode, and then we will be adjusting some values. Okay, so we want to make sure, let's just go here, that this is selected, and we want to go to the physics tab, and then sorry guys, my throat is getting so dry from talking. We want to make sure that it's on flow, fire and smoke, inflow, use flow, that's fine, absolute density, that's, we leave all these settings standard, and then like I said, just make sure you select initial velocity minus 200 meters per second. All right, and then we're gonna select our domain, and then on our domain settings, when we're happy with all the settings and we want a really nice render or a really nice flame, we'll push up the numerical value here, and that'll increase the quality and subdivisions of our flame. So for now, you can just leave it at 34. Timescale, that'll say standard 1. The CFL number 4, that's all standard. You just leave that, don't change those settings. All of this stays the same. We can select adaptive domain, make sure that is selected. Gas, you leave the same. We want to select noise, use noise. This will add more effects detail to your smoke. Okay. That's all good on your fire. I think that's all fine. And then we have some, what we need to do is, for now, I'm just gonna change this timeline to the shader editor tab, and we're gonna just be making some adjustments here. But before we do that, let's just let's split this view, change that back to the timeline, skip back, here's hit play, just let it kind of cache a few frames. Okay, and then what we want to do, maybe go to shader or a rendered view, just so we can see what it looks like. And then we're going to be changing some of these shading or these materials here to make it look a lot more realistic. So the first thing we want to do here, just move this down. And then I want to add an input attribute. And in this area, you're going to type flame. We want to add in a math node. So you can just search math node and set that to multiply. So if you guys can't see, sorry about that. So set that to multiply. We want to drop the factor into the bottom value or the top value, doesn't matter. And then we want to add an emission, drag the value into the strength. The color we want to make yellow because flames are like yellowish orange. And then we want to go add shader, drop it in between those two, and connect this to the bottom one. And you can see we can start seeing some flames. But now we obviously, the more you increase this value, the brighter your flame will burn. That sounds inspirational. So nice bright flame. How nice is that, guys? How nice is that? And then you can also adjust your density here of your smoke, set that to 20, and you can also bring your smoke color, you can darken it as well. You don't want it to be too dark, but yeah. Cool. That's looking pretty good. And what we can do is we can now close this, join areas, bring this down, and then you just want to select your sphere and your domain, and then you want to parent them to your empty, or you can parent them to this rocket booster at the bottom here. They will follow along however. So yeah, let's just select that, but first let me hide this. We're going to select our sphere, which is our inflow that will be creating our fire, and we select our domain, and we can probably move this down a bit because some of our rockets like literally in flames. Okay, and then we can select our middle rocket or the whole thing, right click, parent object. And so what will happen is our fire should follow along our rocket when it starts flying. So doors will open and it should then technically follow along. So it's not making flames all the way because it's just too much to compute. So you need to cache those frames. So what we can do is quickly cache it out and see what it looks like. So make sure you've got your domain selected. We're going to go to cache, and then you want to select where you want to cache your frames. This will usually automatically create a cache folder inside of the root folder where we have saved our project file. So that's all good. I want to select this to all and is resumable, so I can cache and stop at any time and to see what it looks like, and then continue caching, and this will save the cache frames into this folder. Now remember, we need to change this to 902 frames because we want the flame to be going for the full 902 frames. Technically it should only start around here. So what we can do actually is go over here. We wanted to start creating the flame at 514 and cache all the way through to 902. And then let's bake it for now, just see what happens. I'm gonna have a sip of coffee. Okay, cool. So the frames have cached, and let's play and see what happens. So if I skip backwards here, we can see our bay doors will open and our flame will start. Our rocket flame will start, and it is taking off slowly. So it started, the engine started up a lot sooner, and I think I know why. It's because we need to play with some settings here. We need to go back free all. Okay. We can change this to cache from frame 1, and I think we need to adjust in the physics tab. I think somewhere in here we need to change when it needs to start and when it stops. It might be from the inflow, so let's just go have a look here. Okay, so yeah, way too soon. We wanted to only start caching from frame 540. So let's just load that. All right, cool. And then what I want to do quickly as well is I want to select dissolve, because I do want the smoke to kind of evaporate at some point. So you want it to start off and then kind of evaporate, not too quickly. So let's just go back here. Time, yeah, it says determine how quickly the smoke dissolves. Lower value makes smoke disappear faster. So this we can set to 15. And there is one last thing I want to add to this fire sim, and that is a wind effector. Okay, so good, pretty good. So like I said, one last thing quickly is I want to go here and say add force field and add a wind force field. I want to just scale that up, move that down here. rotate on the x-axis 180 degrees and make sure it's aligned. Check all your views to make sure it's aligned above. And then we also want to make sure that we pump up the strength of our wind effector. So we're gonna go here to physics, strength, and make sure that is pumped like nice, like maybe 100. And then we need to parent that to the rocket. So parent to object, and let's let that run and see what happens. And that will also affect how the smoke and the fire moves. We can actually increase the strength here, maybe to 150. And then a few last changes that I want to do is I'm going to change this back to all, and then I'm going to increase the quality here to 80, and I'm going to bake the rocket flame fluid sim, and we will give it a few minutes just to bake all of that information, and then we will replay it and maybe render one frame and see what it looks like. So yeah, it's going to take a few minutes, guys, so I'll check in when it's finished. Alright, so our frames have finished caching. We will now have a look, see what it looks like. So I'm just going to play the animation. Actually, let's maybe change, let's join these areas. Go to camera view, and we'll hit the wireframe and have a look what happens. So bay doors open, rocket moves into place, our fire starts up. Man, that looks pretty cool. It's actually better to split these views, and then we'll change that back, and it's better if we can see completely what's happening here. So I'm gonna just skip back. So it moves into place, fire starts up. Oh man, look how nice that looks. Wow. So yeah, we've got our flame going. It's running currently at very low frame rate because it's a lot to compute, but it's fine. So yeah, it's slowly going. Look at that, guys. How awesome is that? And maybe we'll stop it there and render a single frame and see what that looks like with everything composited together. I think it's starting to look really good. Look how nice those flames are casting light back into the engines there. And we've got our smoke, which looks so good. Just give it a few moments. And I am loving this. I am genuinely loving this. It will take a while because rendering volumetrics such as smoke and flames is quite taxing on hardware, on GPUs and stuff. So it will take a while. But yeah, my word, look at this. Hey, look at this, guys. We have a rocket flying out of the ground in Switzerland. Let's, just for fun, let's scrub back and just render another frame just to see what it looks like when the flame is still inside the tunnel, if it lights up the tunnel inside. It should, hopefully. And it does. Wow, guys, look at that. Look how awesome it lights up the details inside the tunnel. And you've got some reflections here on the metal, which looks great. There are a few more settings that I want to play with here. before we finish off this part 3, which is the final part, I want to add an extra light here just to hit from the side of this rocket, just to stand out from the background. I want to possibly just play with the colors of this as well. So that is looking fantastic. Alright, so that is looking good. I want to hit the rendered view here, and then I'm going to add a light, and I'm thinking maybe I'll add just a point light. Just for now, I guess we'll add a point light over here somewhere, and I want it to be on the side of this rocket here. Okay. And let's increase the strength here. Let's just pump it like to 30,000. And you can see there's some rim light forming there, but just not quite enough. So I'm going to double that value. I'm just going to say ×2, hit enter. Looking better. And now if we go to the top view and we just shift this light around, we can see where it's best to place this light. Let's just hit render and see what that looks in, because sometimes in the rendered preview and the final render does not actually look the same. There will be differences, so it's sometimes just best to just render that one frame and see what you have. And you don't want to overdo the light. You just want a little bit extra light just to separate that rocket from the background. But yeah, it looks alright, but I am gonna go crazy and times it by 2 again. See if I move this closer. Cool. Skip to one of these frames here, render it out, see what it looks like, and I just want to see. I think we do have motion blur activated, which will add to the realism, but we'll just have a final look after we look at this frame that's rendered. We'll look at some of the settings if we're happy, and then I'm going to render this out, guys, and that'll be it. And then it's up to you to go and recreate this or create something even better, which I know you guys can. I have total faith in you. Like everything that I'm doing in this tutorial and every other tutorial that I've done, I taught myself by watching other guys, other YouTube channels, by just picking up techniques, and then sometimes thinking out of the box on how can I implement or use these things. So no one actually told me, how do you get the rocket flame to follow the rocket? I just thought, well, you know, it kind of makes sense if you parent the domain and the inflow object to whatever object's moving, it should then technically follow along. And that's what it seemed like it happened to me. So, yeah. Okay, so let's just go. It's looking very nice. And what I want to do is just go to compositing. And if it's not showing there, just click on the plus, go to general and go to compositing. And I just want to adjust a few settings here quickly. What you can do is, if you're rendering at a low render rate here to get quicker render times, you can activate here. If you go to passes, you go to denoise data, okay, and you can add in a denoise node. Make sure you connect the normal to the normal and the albedo to the albedo, and then we'll have a look-see. So this is interesting. I don't know why we have two rendered layers. It's really not necessary, so we can delete that one. I want to delete that. Just drop that into composite and that into the viewer. Just give it a moment to load. Okay, and then we're gonna go back here to the rendered view and see now it's applied some denoising data, and it looks pretty good. So I'm happy with that. Let's just go back here. I just want to, let's just click save just in case. And then I just want to double check if I've got, okay, motion blur is activated. That's going to add realism. So that's what we want. And then you can go back to compositing and then you can add some effects like, you know, a glow for the light. So what I prefer to do is render this out, then put this in After Effects and do all the extra effects in After Effects. You can, to make this look like a film scene, you can add some grain, you can add some glows to the highlights, you can add the cinematic black bars at the top and bottom, you can color grade it, adjust some contrast and things, and then it's really gonna pop. So yeah, that's if you use After Effects. I can do a tutorial on that for you guys if you want, just let me know. But yeah, this is it, guys. Let's go back to layout, and all that is left is for us to render this out. So let's do it. Let's go. I'm going to render at 1920 by 1080, 60 frames per second. We want to render, go to your project file, is we saved it as Rocket Bunker VFX, and then let's just create a new folder and call it render, and we can say Rocket Bunker VFX. Click accept, and then once again it's up to you depending on your software. So what you can do is render each individual frame, and then you can import those frames into After Effects and you have more control over each individual frame. But I'm just gonna go and render this out as a straight MP4. So you want to select FF MPEG video, go to encoding, select MPEG 4. I want to change the output quality here to high quality. And then maybe one thing I forgot to show you is go to camera view, rendered view. If you go to down here to color management, it's set to filmic. So sometimes it looks better on standard. I don't know why. When you put it to filmic, it kind of equalizes the colors. You see the light isn't so bright, it's not contrasty, which is, I don't like that. It looks better on standard. And then you can also play with the different looks. You can have a very high contrast, or you can have medium high contrast, very low contrast, or just none. So I'm just going to leave that on none, but I do want my view transform, I want to leave that on standard. Just save, go back to render. I've got MP4, I know where I want to save it out, 60 frames per second, frame 1 to 902. Save, already cached out my frames. Let's just look at the render settings here. I want to apply adaptive sampling. That will increase your render speeds. And then light paths here, we can leave that. What else was there that I wanted to say? Oh yeah, okay, so your tile size, okay, minus 512 by 512, that's great. So if you've got a GPU, the higher your tile size, the faster it'll render. If you go too large, it's going to take forever, so try to stick to 512 by 512. That really seems to work nicely. So that's all set. Motion blur, you can add motion blur in After Effects. So if you add motion blur, it's going to render, it's just going to add to your render time. So you can deactivate this and add that in post after, add it in post editing, which means you can pull this into your favorite editing software and you can add some fake motion blurs to everything. But seeing as this is a Blender tutorial, I am just going to do everything here in Blender and just leave it as is, so not to infuriate anyone. Yeah, so we want motion blur, so that's activated, which is all good. We're going to leave it at 128 samples and just save this, and I'm going to go ahead and say render animation, and then we just walk away and come back in a few minutes or hours and see what our final result looks like. So I want to say thank you guys for watching this and sticking through this tutorial series with me. Thank you for supporting me. Share it with people that you know are into visual effects, that that you think they might enjoy this. And guys, if you're not subscribed, please, I'm begging you. Like, if I had a video, I would show you that I'll be willing to go on my knees to beg you to subscribe. Please guys, it just takes like 4 seconds. Just go down under the video on the right, click subscribe if you don't know where it is. It's completely free and it helps us as creators out tremendously. Yeah, so thank you for watching, and I guess I'll see you on the next tutorial series. I have something epic in mind for my next one. I don't want to give anything away really. It's a big one, and this will definitely be the biggest project I've taken on in visual effects. So yeah, it's quite daunting, but I know I can do it. It'll just take a little bit of practice and determination, but I'll get there. I know I will. So yeah, I'll see you guys on the next one, and I hope you guys have a great day. Cheers.